Telo is an electric truck startup that's hoping to bring this vehicle to production. It's an electric truck with 350 miles of range, 5 seats, 500 horsepower, 4 doors, and a 5-foot bed. Now, what makes this different than every other electric truck that you can already buy? It's small. This is the Telo MT1. Actually, this is an early prototype of a Telo MT1. And that's Alcatraz. And the pitch for this vehicle is big truck capability in little truck package. Great for cities and tight spaces. Which is why they brought the prototype up to San Francisco so I could drive it around the sort of cityscape it was designed for.
Welcome to San Francisco.
I gotta say, you bringing this up here so I can drive it in San Francisco has wiped away my ability for unbiased journalism. This little guy is all about packaging. Telo's favorite stat about this vehicle is that it's the same length as a Mini Cooper, 152 inches, and 4 feet less long than the Ford Maverick, the smallest pickup currently available in the US. But despite that, it has a full, usable, 4-foot wide, 5-foot long bed, it is a crew cab, it has 4-wheel drive, 500 horsepower, and as you can see in their chassis prototype, they're using every available inch of space to fit as large of a battery as possible. I love San Francisco.
Hit it on the hill.
All right.
So fun.
Not lacking in power, and this one's slightly detuned, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Telo's very small. Have you thought about safety?
That's the first thing we thought about. The whole vehicle is built from the concept of what is the minimum viable frontal crash zone that would exceed a 5-star crash rating, and everything was built backwards from that.
Let's run through some basic stats of the production version of the Telo MT1. These specs are mostly projections, the final numbers will likely be different. The 4 options they're planning are single motor, dual motor, extended range, and standard range. With the single motor, they're expecting 5 seconds 0 to 60, 300 horsepower, 2-wheel drive, and a payload of 2,000 pounds. For the dual motor, they're expecting 4 seconds 0 to 60, 500 horsepower, and a payload of 1,700 pounds. For range, they expect 260 or 350 miles, and charging they expect to take 30 minutes from 10 to 80%. And towing capacity they expect to be over 6,000 pounds. How much will it cost?
Yeah, so the starting price of the vehicle with no incentives, I want to be clear, no incentives, is $41,500.
And that's for single motor, standard range.
That's right.
And how much will be the long range dual motor?
The Spectrum it's in right now is $50,000.
$50,000.
Our vehicle is not meant to compete with other low-cost vehicles. Our vehicle is a pickup truck dedicated for downtown cities. The only pickup truck really built purposefully for a downtown city. And with that in mind, it's also serving the function of a full-size work truck. So the fact that we have 500 horsepower, 350 miles of range, 4-wheel drive, 5 seats, a bed that goes to 8 feet, these are the features that we wanted to include, and that's why it costs us more to build the vehicle in and of itself.
I've seen a few opinions online about the pricing of this vehicle being too high, but when you consider that they don't have economies of scale on their side, when you consider that they're building all of their battery packs in a tiny warehouse just south of San Francisco, no, price is fine. And they tell me they plan to build all of the battery packs for these trucks themselves in-house, even in production. Lombard Street, tourists are gathered around and they're gonna get shots of a very special vehicle, and some of them might not even realize it. Down we go. So much maneuverability. It looks like he's even having trouble maneuvering this in his Tacoma. This is just like a little bug. And for my battery nerds out there, here's a lightning interview with CTO and co-founder of Telo, Forrest North. What's the battery chemistry?
NMC.
Cylindrical, prismatic, or pouch?
Cylindrical 2170s.
Can you yodel?
Unknown.
Axial or radial cooling of the cells?
It's axial.
Gross capacity of the final pack?
106 kilowatt hours.
Usable capacity?
Probably check it to 100.
400 or 800 volt?
It's 400 currently. We've architected it in such a way that we could switch to 800 easily.
What's the capacity of the onboard charger?
40 amps, potentially 80.
What's the peak DC charge speed theoretically?
Bigger than what's currently out there. So 350 kilowatts is out there now, and that would be fine.
Will it be able to do vehicle to grid?
Yes. And these are the tires we wore out at the autocross event. So,
fantastic.
So you could just continue to shred them.
Like I said, this is a prototype, which means the production version will look mostly like this, but it'll be made of different materials, use different components, and have totally different build methods. This exists for design validation, engineering validation, and to gather interest from investors. Some things on it are non-functional and just for show. For instance, the windows don't roll down, and the blinker stalk is just a 3D printed extension to a rocker switch. The windows do not roll down in this, but I just remembered. You said this has air conditioning.
Yes, let's try it out.
Let's hit the unlabeled button.
I will tell you, we bias it to the passenger. So.
You jerks! You did that specifically because I'm going to drive it. The front seats are pedestal mounted, giving it a really open feeling floor, and this also gives more footroom for the rear seat passengers behind you. This vehicle is not very long, and on camera, the rear seats do not look very big. But in reality, let's get back here. Obviously, they're not going to be huge. It's not a very big vehicle. And this seat is in my position. It's not awful. There's plenty of foot room, but not a lot of knee room. But I can spread my legs and fit back here. I wouldn't want to do a super long journey back here, but it's mostly fine. This definitely won't make it to production, but right now these door handles are capacitive. Now this works well, very well, in the city. And I know some people are going to ask, yeah, but what about the highway? It's short, whatever. I'm sure it's very stable, but they don't take this prototype on the highway because it doesn't have airbags and other liability reasons. If you're wondering why they made it a 4-door instead of making it a 2-door and having a massive bed, it's because no one in the US buys 2-door pickups anymore. And because this has 4 doors and 5 seats, this could potentially be your only vehicle. And in the future, they plan to sell an SUV version of this, which will have presumably even more space. Now, I have a friend in the Netherlands who has a complaint about Telo. Very serious complaint.
Okay, let's hear it.
He says it is too big.
I could see that. You know, I've been to the Netherlands, and don't even know where those cars have come from. They're so tiny. They have some really small cars.
Yeah, he said it's bigger than his C4 Cactus in width and height, so it's too big. Okay, this is very important for people that are building an EV. Does everyone that works here drive an EV?
No, I don't.
Oh, really? What do you daily drive?
A Tacoma in downtown San Francisco.
That's why you want this. Okay.
Exactly.
All right, here we go. Over the bridge.
I'm now entering the Golden Gate Bridge in the first prototype of Telo with the CEO of Telo. This is a special moment. Given the diminutive exterior dimensions of this vehicle, the bed is massive. They designed it to fit a full sheet of plywood in width and in length with the tailgate up. I know it may not look like it can hold a full sheet of plywood in here, but it has a midgate. I'm not going to fold it all the way down because I'd have to reconfigure it a little bit. It is a prototype. But it has a midgate. And with this down and the tailgate up, there's about 8 feet of space, 8 feet of length. It's awesome. Also in the bed, you've got some L tracks for your cargo tie downs, and it wouldn't be an electric truck without outlets. 2 120 volt outlets and one NEMA 1450 40 amp outlet, 240 volts. I assume the production truck will also have a midgate.
Yes, absolutely. That's a big part of the story we tell is how do you have a vehicle that fits in this footprint that does things that giant trucks can do as well.
It may not have a frunk because of its incredibly cab-forward design, but as you can see, it does have a gear tunnel under the bed. This full-length pass-through tunnel is called the Monster Tunnel. Get it? Because it's under the bed. And because there's no long hood out front, I kept thinking I was pulling up to curbs when actually I was leaving a massive gap.
The Telo gap.
The design is, well, I'll let you make up your own opinion about the design. One thing is, it's at least cohesive. There's tons of pill shapes. Pills, pill, 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 functional pill, pill, and many, many more pills. How long have you had a pill addiction? This pill on the door, by the way, serves a purpose. It's for aerodynamics.
You get a high pressure zone right behind the front tires. And to relieve that pressure zone, you want that air to have a direction, a way to go, as opposed to just jettisoning out. Because what it'll look like in aerodynamic analysis is it'll just be like acting like an air brake right here. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, so this is instead using it to redirect the air and reattach back to the side of the vehicle.
The charge port is right here, integrated with the left taillight assembly, and it will be NACS at launch. The infotainment is a fairly standard EV approach to infotainment, and by that I mean not a lot of buttons, but a lot of screen. They are taking software very seriously, and it looks like it'll be good. I mean, this is only mock software that's on here at the moment, but it looks nice. And they've taken a fairly novel approach with the driver's display here. It is just a screen, but in front of it, they've put a bezel to cover up parts of the screen and make it look more interesting. I'd like to think that the software engineers are going to have fun with this and put like an animation of a middle finger flipping you off behind the bezel that no one will ever see. But they'll know. I know there's much more to a truck than just going fast and squirting around the streets, but it's so much fun.
That's the most accessible thing that happens, like, you know, every time you drive it.
Look, I know flooring it everywhere doesn't really tell you anything useful about the truck, but it's a prototype. I can't really evaluate it. It's probably going to change, so I'm just having fun.
Wow!
Just
Always fun.
again, I know there's more to a vehicle than just raw power and fun, but it does that real well.
Is there?
I don't know how much of this will make it into production, but I do want to talk about the cooling of this because it's rather interesting the way they package the cooling. For example, the front of the vehicle and the rear of the vehicle have completely isolated cooling loops. This little design feature right here is actually a complete pass-through, and inside of here is a radiator for the front motor. And see these two little slits in the rear bumper here? Behind these, or well, in front of these, is a radiator in front of each slit. These heat exchangers in the back are for things like the DC to DC converter, the onboard charger, of course the rear motor and inverter, and I don't remember if it's the front or the rear that handles this, but one of them handles battery pack cooling and heating. I'm experiencing all of the touristy bits of San Francisco for the first time in a multi-million-dollar prototype vehicle from Telo. I love this.
How else did you experience San Francisco?
Yeah, on your feet, that's lame. It's as well equipped as you would expect from a truck in the modern age. It has a glass roof, climate control, ADAS, etc., etc. It's not stripped down and basic, but it's not super luxurious either. By the way, the seats in the prototype are cloth, but they tell me they want a different material for the production version. To the engineers at Telo, I do have a request for future iterations of this vehicle, specifically in the software department. It needs more off-throttle regen. Like a lot more. Don't make me dig into the brake pedal for regen braking. Just lift off the throttle and then throw me through the windshield. This is what I want. Oh, no one pedal driving programmed in just yet.
No, not yet.
The windshield wipers are the opposing direction persuasion. These body panels on the prototype are actually made of carbon fiber. On the early production versions, they won't be made of carbon fiber, but they will still be made of composites because that's cheaper at low volume production. If this thing goes into higher volume production, they'll invest in stamping machines, and these will be made of aluminum or steel or something like that. But that's down the road.
So what we do uniquely is our first batch of vehicles, composites, because tools for composites is in the thousands of dollars. The panels in composites end up costing significantly more, also in the thousands of dollars. As you move to the next phase of the company, you can use a softer form of hard tools, so a softer form of tools called soft tools, usually made out of a material called Kirksite. You can stamp between 500 to 5,000 vehicles per year, either out of aluminum or even steel, and that's where you kind of get that range of 500 to 5,000. And those will be millions of dollars for the tools, single-digit millions, but tens of dollars for each component. So you see how you can step your way into it.
The first thing you need to know about Telo is that they're not trying to be the next Tesla or Rivian. They're not trying to make it big right out of the gate. They are scaling very cautiously, and they're going to produce vehicles to meet demand. As I understand it, you're going to be building the first couple hundred or so by hand. Is that correct?
Yeah, and when we say by hand, you know, there's a lot of ways people will interpret that. But what it really means is we're not using any type of high volume production tooling. Because like the problem is that every other automaker that came before that is part of the graveyard of electric vehicle companies tried to go big too fast.
I want to say that you seem very comfortable driving this, like you've had a lot of experience, but this only has 460 miles on it.
Yeah, it's been driving, basically for only 2 months now.
Now, of course, the big question that everyone asks, will Telo make it to production? Will they survive as a company? I don't know. And you don't either. I don't know if Telo will make it as a company, and there's some aspects of the business they clearly haven't put a ton of thought into yet, like sales and service. When asked about sales and service, Jason gave sort of a non-answer to both of those things, but the quality and completeness of this, their first prototype with a body, astonished me because they built it in 9 months, they fabricated a lot of it themselves in their little warehouse, and they did it with just 11 employees. There are startups with hundreds of employees and hundreds of millions of dollars in funding with less complete prototypes.
We did all of the engineering for the vehicle itself ourselves. So that means we did all the Class A surfaces, we did all of the seat design, we did all of the steering wheel design, we did a lot more than we probably should have done. And some of that is because not that it was more expensive to use suppliers, but their timeline just didn't meet the requirement we had to do to launch this vehicle.
Where did the name Telo come from?
Telo is shortened from telos, which is Greek, and it means purpose. So like your telos will be like your life purpose.
How soon do you think it'll go into production?
As soon as we can make enough to make it possible. The reality is that we have to get from where we are right now to our first delivery of a vehicle, it takes at least 12 months to get there. and there's some padding in there as well. So we really are aiming for the first vehicles to be delivered to our customers before the end of next year.
Thanks to Telo for inviting me out here to drive their beautiful prototype in beautiful sunny San Francisco. It's been a hoot. This thing's fun. I rented a Mach-E to come out here, and it feels slow now compared to this. Full disclosure, Telo didn't pay me anything. I flew out to San Francisco and handled all the other travel expenses on my own dime. I don't have any financial incentive to say anything good or bad about the company or the truck. But that being said, I'm obviously not without bias. I mean, they let me drive their one and only complete prototype around the streets of San Francisco with wild abandon. How could I be unbiased after that? I don't know if Telo will make it as a company, but I hope they do. Not just because I like the thing they're trying to bring to market, but because I like the company and the people that work there as just like a vibe. And thank you for watching. I'm taking this home with me. Don't tell them though.